Welcome back to the vlog, and welcome back to a rainy one here in Wewak, Papua New Guinea. My name is Ryan. We're just heading out to a place called Inadu today. I got stuck out there last time, and I have a good weather report so far that it is not wet, has not flooded, so let's go ahead and get on our way. Alright, igniter's on, fuel pump on, make sure our fuel's on, and low start. Over 14%, introduce my fuel. Making sure my NG is coming up over 30, 35%, then I'm looking at my ITT, watching the trend of it coming up, see how fast it's coming up. Peaks out at 700 and then starts dropping off. Then you know your start's done. Generator on, our V2, alternator, prop forward, and auxiliary bus. Alright, fuel caps and selectors are good, controls are good. We'll go out at 10,000. Leave Betty enabled for now. Our train awareness, our switches and instruments. My air going first. We got 451 kgs of cargo on board. Payload is 451, and then we have 1,050 on the fuel. And all the seats on board. So we come down here to our cargo, put in 994, so I'll just bump it up to 1,000. And then our fuel, we're going to do 1,050. Alright, we are the blue dot here in Papua New Guinea, right above Australia. It's not in Africa, in case you thought it was. And we are heading out to Inadu, somewhere out here, and then on down here to Goroka as well. So let's be on our way at the 32-minute flight out to Inadu. Alright, before we head out on taxi, we're at 6,700, so we'll rotate at 61 knots. And come back in at 72 if we had to for any emergency or whatnot. Let's go ahead and taxi on out. Taxi light on. All stations, Wewak 126.7, Kodiak November Tango, Zulu, taxiing Wewak, Inadu will be on climb 10,000, outbound track 212. Midday 126.7, November Tango, Zulu taxi. All stations, Wewak, November Tango, Zulu, back taxi, runway 10 for departure to the south-southwest. Alright, clear on both sides.
November Zulu, copy, taxi.
November Zulu. And Madang, November Tango Zulu, 1 POB.
November Tango Zulu.
Alright, our switches and instruments are done. We've already got our radar going. Our flaps are set, indicated, and verified. At 20 on both sides. If we do need to stop, full reverse, heavy braking, flaps up. Pull off and shut off if we are going off for any reason. Shake off pitch for 85, consider EPL, consider feather. Otherwise, 80 full flaps, probably land on the golf course or out to the beach. Pull off and shut off emergencies, crack my door, make my mayday call on this frequency. Crack my door close to the ground in case the free sludge bends. Alright, ignition, inlet, lights, done, taxi done. High idle done, 28 degrees, sea level, so we'll go 30, 1590, so 1540 for 1590. I'll rotate 61. Alright, torque is set. Airspeed's alive. There's 55, there's 60 and 61. A little nose over trim. And then we'll climb out at 85 knots with our ITT right at the top of the green at 740. Well, it's actually turning out to be a little bit nicer day today. We had a lot of rain out there just about 45 minutes ago when I landed. It's all rained off, and it was raining just about until I take off, so just a little tiny sprinkle now. And where I'm going, Inadu, it looks like it's going to be a nice day out there as well. I flew by it sort of within like 30 or 40 miles, and it looked like it's pretty good, and we have a weather report saying that it's also sunny skies, so that's good. All right, we'll go 0 degrees of flaps, bring our prop back to 2,000 RPM, for our climb out and bring our ITT, let it actually just settle down on its own right out to 720. There's nobody around in the pattern today, I just checked, so I'm going to go ahead and flip off our landing light, engine inlet back to normal, and our igniter is turned off. And we'll go ahead and make our call up to Madang, let them know for our flight following. We call it Star Watch here. Madang 1267 November Tango Zulu departure.
November Tango Zulu, stand by.
We're going to try to wiggle our way right through that little gap right here in the cloud. November Tango Zulu departed WEWAC, time 17, tracking 212 on climb 10,000. Estimating Inadu circuit 49er.
November Tango Zulu,
Just going to increase my airspeed, increase my climb, reduce my airspeed to best rate of climb, which is 99 knots. That'll get us the most altitude for the amount of distance. I can go IMC through here, but technically I need to be 3,100 feet before I go IMC along this mountain ridge right here, even though I know that you can see right through it. Anyways, to be legal, that's what I have to be, but I think we can just pop right up over top of this little cloud, a little V in the cloud right here. All right, there's 3,100 feet, so we can go IMC if we had to for any reason, but like I said, I think we'll be able to just pop right over top of these. So like I was saying last time I went out to Inadu, the river had just flooded recently, and I landed, and when I taxied to the end to turn back around, because usually the ends are a little bit firmer than the middle of the airstrip where it's kind of low, that usually floods. I ended up getting stuck, my nose wheel just kind of sunk in, and we had to have probably 20 guys or so push my plane out, put people in the back of it, raise the nose up, and kind of twist it around. I made a video on my Patreon page if you're interested in seeing how we actually get a stuck airplane out of the mud. Yeah, and then I landed there again later on that day, and didn't get stuck, but we still had to kind of maneuver the plane around with people to be able to taxi back down to the firm end of the runway. So that was one of my concerns coming into Inadu today, was just to make sure that it was not going to be flooded, or has not been flooded in the recent week, I should say. So it has not, got good reports for that, so thankfully that's the case. I'm flying in some fuel drums here for their lawnmower of just petrol, and as well as some like rice and whatever else. Somebody else is shipping it in. It's not us just shipping in, it's some of the stuff for maintenance for the airstrip, and then whatever they ordered out there is what they're getting now. Well, some of you guys have asked in the comments a little bit about my past history and where I did my training and whatnot, so I thought I'd cover a little bit of that on this flight today, just because there's not a lot going on. And so yeah, I got my pilot certificate when I was 19 years old in Jackson, Michigan at a community college. I had a scholarship that had paid for, I think something, I don't even know how many, a couple $1,000s worth of flying. Got my pilot certificate, and I don't know, I started in August, I think in April, I think is when I got it, maybe, I don't remember, something like that. I think it took me like 75 hours. At the time I felt like, wow, that's so much more than, it only requires 40, but it took me 75, I must really suck. Anyways, come to find out, I think that's pretty normal. But yeah, I flew for like another year and a half or so of just kind of, $100 hamburger, catching the sunset with friends and whatnot. But it was kind of boring. Like, without any purpose behind it. I feel like I get purpose out of what I do here. I help people, and I really enjoy what I do. But if there was no purpose, and it was just me spending a lot of money, and as a broke college student, I just didn't have the money, even though it was like, I think it was like $41 an hour or 50 bucks an hour. It was so dirt cheap, and at the time I thought it was expensive, but it was very, very dirt cheap. And I was like a 172, and that I was in a club. Anyways, I did all my training, and by the time I got here to the field, I had 700 hours. I had, so my ratings are, is I have my single engine, my multi-engine, my IFR in both, and my CFI. I don't have double I though. And at the time I had my instrument rating, and I had, I don't know how many hours exactly as far as simulated, but I didn't have any actual. Well, maybe like half an hour actual. But when I did my training at the time, I just didn't know. I should have gone with an instructor that would take me out. So the very, very first time I ever flew through a cloud I was by myself after I had my instrument rating, was the very first time I flew through a cloud, and it was, yeah, it was very overwhelming. It was very different. It was very bumpy. It was kind of rainy out and whatnot. Very stressful, but yeah, so if you are doing instrument training, I highly, highly recommend finding an instructor that will actually take you in IMC conditions so that you can build that confidence, because it does not come any other way other than actually flying. Because you can fly with your foggles on all day long and be a freaking amazing Chuck Yeager IMC pilot, and then you get in some real IMC weather and it's completely different. The very first time I flew into IMC, I was kind of like super nervous. I actually got my foggles out and put them on because I felt more comfortable flying with my foggles, because I was like, this is my normal, this is what I'm used to. Since then I've got over that, but the very first few times I was like, this is just very overwhelming. There's lots of moving around going on, and it kind of like shielded all of the clouds and whatnot and allowed me to focus on what I needed to. So anyways, I came to the field with 700 hours, 0 IMC time. I ended up getting my IFR rating here in Papua New Guinea, and at the time I just transferred over my commercial license. 1 second, I just need to give a quick call for my area. All stations, WEWAC 126.7, November Tango Zulu 20 miles to the south-southwest on the 220 radial outbound on climb 10,000. All stations, WEWAC. Anyways, I was able to transfer over my commercial license here into Papua New Guinea without a lot of work. I had to do just the written test, but I didn't have to do a check ride at the time. Now that's required. My IFR rating, I had to do a check ride with CASA as well as a written test. And to get my CFI transferred over, I will also have to do basically a check ride with CASA, and I'm hoping early next year that I'll be able to get that done, because we have some new pilots coming. So yeah, I don't have my CFI here in country, but in the States I do. Anyways, I got my IFR rating here, and that was really when I first was just thrown into the IFR environment. PNG is so much different than America. Like our IFR charts, let me just show you. This is the Jeppesen app here. And we were able to upload our own user content. So we made all of our own IFR charts, and let's turn that off. So all of our routes, we have IFR routes to our bush locations, and the reason being is because, well, there aren't any. All of the IFR en route charts are all 16,000 plus for all the airlines that fly around at 25, 30,000. So all their minimum safes just don't work out well for our Kodiak. Most of our flying is 10,000 to 12,000 on average for most of our flights. So anyways, what I did is I put all these maps together in Photoshop, put them on here, and then made our own IFR tracks for where we go to, and some step downs as well, like out here. Let's see what I'm talking about. If we were coming out here to Iteti, within 20 nautical miles you can drop down to 5,200. But if you drop down at before 20 miles, you can get down to 1,500 feet and then try to get in VFR. So that's kind of what I mean. Anyways, we are heading out here to Inadu, and I'm just I think the track itself is a tiny bit off, and I'm kind of getting over there. But we don't use this map to like fly by. We use all of our GPS and our waypoints and whatnot. This is just kind of a visual backup to give you an idea. Oh, I'm right over this river. Yep, I'm verifying it down there and whatnot. All right, so we're at our altitude now. 10,000, I'm going to bring my torque back on down to 1250. It's super, super, super sensitive. Anyways, that's how we do all of our IFR flying. Every single one of my flights, I file an IFR flight plan, but we don't have, it's just like a VFR flight following plan though, whenever we do file that. So really, we're required to stay alive and not run into any rocks and any clouds. So it allows us to go VFR, IFR, back to VFR. Like for instance, I could leave WEWAC and not have to pick up an IFR clearance, but just basically make my call like I always do. Fly IMC out here to Inadu, do our step down to a safe altitude, and then fly in VFR, and then the same getting out of there. So it is confusing. It takes a little while to understand exactly how we're doing it and what we're doing. But all of these IFR charts are off of what the CASA, like at the FAA here, the CASA regulations are. And we've just added all those extra points into keeping all of our minimum safe altitudes at a legal amount all along the way. So but anyways, getting back to my experience and whatnot, I have like 2,100 hours now. So like I said, I came here 700 hours. I flew for 200 hours on loan with MAF. We didn't have the Kodiaks, and they needed pilots, but they had check and training pilots, but we did not at the time, or have airplanes. Like we were kind of transitioning out of the Cessna 206s to these. So I flew a piston aircraft, the GA8, the Gippsland Airband. It was a turbo plane with like 320 horsepower, I think. It was kind of a dog for this, even with the turbo, it's still kind of a dog. Full up, you'd have 400 feet per minute on climb, so you really had to plan out your climbs with mountains and clouds, whereas the Kodiak, even full up, you're probably still good for anywhere from 800 to 1,000, kind of depending on the winds and whatnot. So even full up, this still is double the performance of the GA8. Alright, let's bring up the strip chart here for Inadu. Runway elevation is 110 feet. The length is 560 meters. It's completely flat, 30 meters wide. And we've got a river on one end and kind of just jungle off the other end. So there's nothing really that special about it. It is a pretty area, but the actual runway itself, there's really nothing that special about it. We're nearly at top of descent now. Still have 38 miles to run, but I'm at 10,000, basically going all the way down to sea level nearly again, down to 1,000 for my pattern altitude. And if you're wondering, why did you waste the time in climbing all the way up to 10,000 feet if it's only a 32-minute flight? Honestly, it's just to get out of the humidity. That's the only reason I do it. Well, not the only reason. It does save fuel climbing up higher. For that short of a distance, probably negligible. But it does cool it down. It's nice and 75 degrees in here now. And the outside air temperature is 12 degrees Celsius, so like, I don't know, 55, 54 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. So it cools it down, gives me nice AC, gets rid of the humidity before I have to go back into the soupy humidity here when I get out to Inadu. Just looking out here towards Goroka, that's where my next destination is. I think it's like an hour and 20 minute flight from Inadu. I'll be heading back at 15,000 feet. And it looks like a really beautiful day to do that. All the way back, it looks really nice and clear. I'll be getting back before noon probably, so a quick, easy, early day. Alright, that's top of descent now. Coming down to 900 feet per minute. So I'm going to set 700 up first. It's going to just zoom on past it, as you can see. And then I'll click another 2 more down to 900, then it'll kind of stabilize itself. Get a little bit of right rudder trim out so we're coordinated on our descent. So as you climb, you need lots of right rudder pressure. As you descend, you take some of that right rudder pressure out or put in left, depending on if you have rudder trim or not. With the Airband, it did not have rudder trim, and that was the worst thing about the whole airplane. So yeah, you're always pushing on this one, or you're always pushing on your left one on your descents. And in the environment that we fly here, you're either going up or you're going down almost all the time. So it was a miserable airplane to fly. My runways are 23, so I can turn my little heading bug right here to 230 just as a reminder, and 05. So depending on how the winds are, the winds up here would be favoring runway 05 coming in this way. But once I get a little bit lower, we'll determine on what pattern direction we'll be doing. It'll be either a right-hand pattern or a left-hand pattern for 23 left-hand, right-hand for 05. We're 6 minutes out, 21 miles to run. Let's start our landing checklist. Our fuel selectors and brakes are good. We'll leave TAWS enabled for now because I still have autopilot on. Our VREF, we're 6560, so we'll probably be landing a little bit less than that. So we'll go 70 knots on our VREF speed. I'll do autopilot off now and wiggle our way through these clouds. It looks like the clouds right now are around 6,000, go all the way down. I'm guessing 1,500 foot to maybe probably 2,000 feet, depending on how the hills and whatnot go. So really, really nice day. I was looking at my windy app before I came out here, and it was actually forecasting it to have low clouds. So I'm glad that that's not the case, because if I'm not able to land, then I'm just taking all this onto Garoka, and we'll eventually figure out how to get it back here. But there's no sense in wasting $700 worth of fuel just to fly back to empty, back to Wewak, drop all this stuff off, and then onto Garoka empty. So, all right, we're gonna just leave autopilot off so we can turn our TAWS off now. Turn Betty off. She'll be yelling at us to pull up and don't sink and all this other stuff. Terrain ahead. Landing with the G1000 into these bush locations. Alright, lights and inlet. We're 12 miles out. We'll throw our lights on. We'll do our inlet when we start slowing down a little bit more. All stations Inadu 126.7, Kodiak November Tango Zulu 11 miles to the northeast, passing 4,500. Circuit time Inadu 46. Alright, because we're just 10 miles out, we'll hit our OBS here, and I'm guessing we're going to land on 05. So I'll just turn my OBS to 05, and then I will turn my bug to perpendicular or thereabouts, so I know when I'm doing basically my crosswind, because it's going to be behind me, and there's really not a lot out there giving you an indication if you're perpendicular, parallel, and whatnot. So that's why I set this up. Looks like the clouds stop around 3,000 feet out here, which is great. That will allow me lots of room to do my pattern. Because I have a little bit of extra time today, when I land I'm going to throw the drone up, shoot a little video here. I shoot little on-the-ground videos a lot of places I go to, so if you're interested in seeing what it looks like on the airstrip, around the village a little bit and whatnot, check out my Patreon page below. I put out videos. I try to update it every single week with some new content for you guys. I also have like sim flights if you're a sim pilot and you want to try out some of these flights on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 or X-Plane 11 or whatever else. Some of these locations are actually on there. A lot of them are on there with Microsoft Flight Sim. So check out the link down below if you guys want like the details and the strip charts and whatnot to be able to experience PNG, for yourself. Heading 6598, November Tango Zulu in the circuit Inadu. Report after landing.
Tango Zulu, roger.
Alright, just coming up here on our 11 o'clock now. Reduce my power all the way down to probably 250 foot-pound of torque. Like I was thinking, the winds are still going this way, so we're going to be landing on runway 05 right over top of the river. Lights and inlet are done. If we do need to go around, power up 20 degrees, pitch for 73, straight ahead, maneuver is required, reset torque to 740. Prop and harness is done. We'll do flaps now, 10 degrees of flaps. Let me just actually fly over the whole runway so I can see if it looks wet. It looks good. The grass looks longer, but not too long. It looks good, actually. Okay. All right, our VREF is 70 knots, so we want 90 knots on downwind. I'm already a little bit low from where I want to be. So we'll do a right-hand pattern to 0.5. All right. Now we're coming up on pattern altitude. I got a little bit low. Right, we'll turn a beam parallel with the runway now at a mile out, 20 degrees of flaps, and we'll pitch for 80 knots, and we'll drop 300 feet before turning our base. So 800 feet turning base, 600 feet turning final. We'll turn at this hill right over here. A tiny bit high and a tiny bit fast.
500.
We're going to this hill and then kind of cutting in at a little bit of an angle because you can't quite get 100% straight in from this angle. All right, we want to turn final 600. Do soaring flaps to go. Just hug this hill right here as close as I can.
500.
Real close, full flaps. Going to 70 knots. Alright, it's nice that the river is really low, so it's an indication it has not flooded recently. And we're just slowing to 70 knots. Stay right in the middle. It looks like it might be a little bit wet at the other end though. Really pretty approach though. Right, I'm not going to try to turn around right here because this is usually where it's the lowest and the softest. So I'm going to come down here where it's a tiny bit higher and then turn around down here. This looks nice right here actually. Grass is super short. That's an indication that it's going to be a little bit drier than if it was really long grass. Anyways, this is Inadu. Like I was saying, if you're interested in seeing a on-the-ground video, I'm going to shoot one right now. Drop this fuel off for these guys and a couple of goodies down underneath as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I sure do appreciate it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I put out videos a couple times a week, so consider subscribing if this is the kind of content that you guys like watching. Right, shut down. Let's get our fuel. Landed with 850 and shut everything off. Alright guys, thanks again. Have a good one.